I've always wanted to do everything in my life. This meant studying hard, hanging out with friends, grinding, building things, enjoying my hobbies, training, whatever it may be. But as I was growing older, I realized I thought the only way I could do this was being some sort of productivity demon. And as a result, I was doing the whole 5 a.m. wake up, meditations, cold showers, the whole like productivity guru stuff that you see online. And I realized that even though this, yeah, maybe I was productive or maybe I was getting stuff done, I felt like my life wasn't moving forward and I was moving towards burning out rather than moving towards my goal or what I wanted to achieve in my life. And as a result, I kind of felt empty and I just felt like my life wasn't mine and I was a slave to this feeling of needing to be more and more productive. And this like productivity loop that I fell into, I'm sure is probably very relatable to most of you guys, but I would open up 12 tabs, be multitasking, listening to music, watching YouTube, whatever else it may be to just fragment my attention everywhere at any turn possible. And as a result, I was working hard, but feeling like the efforts that I was putting in were not being adequately rewarded on the back end. So at the end of the day, I'd feel tired. I'd feel like I was drained. However, I'd look back and see that I hadn't really done anything of any substantial value or anything that I was truly proud of. And in my mind, that was a problem. And what really made me feel justified in these feelings was this quote by Seneca that I read that mentioned how people are often quick to protect money in their lives, but almost no one protects the time in their life. And as a result, your life ends up leaking away and moving towards things that aren't moving you forward as a person and moving you towards what you were destined to be in life. So something clicked in my mind at that point. I realized that I didn't need more late night motivation to push me through the next day. I needed something else. And what I realized was that in my life, my attention was truly my currency and how I got through my day. So if I didn't safeguard and protect my attention like it was money, then I wouldn't be able to achieve the things that I've always wanted to achieve and what I've wanted to do in my life. And that's when I knew I had to make a change. And I think the reason for me why this was so hard to realize, or why I spent so many years in this constant loop or in this constant like rabbit hole of feeling like I needed to be more and more productive and like a slave to my productivity, was because our world is designed to fragment us. And what I mean by that is our phones are such a big source of distraction, and reels are so addictive, TikTok is so addictive, TV shows are so addictive, ads and everything around you is purposely trying to draw your attention away. And there's been years and years and billions of dollars poured into research and how to make things more addicting to draw more of your attention away. Because I think these big companies realize that the true value in our society is pulling people's attention. And if you can take people's attention from them, you can use it to do whatever they want to do or sell you things and make more money. And once I realized this, I started being a lot more cognizant of what I needed to do in my life to be able to protect my attention and really make it mine and work for me and not for others. And this became even more obvious for me once I came to Stanford, because I realized that, everyone around me was exceptional, but there were clear delineations between groups of people and like why some people were such high performers and some people were not. And everyone has the same 24 hours in the day, so it can't be that they're spending more time doing something. And I realized that what was truly happening was that they were safeguarding and they were using their attention to work for them and focusing really hard on the things that were moving their life forward. Time and time again, I look around and I notice these exceptional performers and I wonder, what are they doing that everyone else isn't? And some of them obviously might be geniuses, but I think at a deeper level, they're constantly grappling with these topics and grappling with them in their head and sitting in these uncomfortable feelings of not understanding something and trying to figure it out anyway. Because the average person or most people nowadays, if they're met with something uncomfortable or something that makes them bored, they're gonna go and reach for their phone and immediately try to just get rid of that feeling entirely because it's uncomfortable, and most people's brains are hardwired to avoid anything uncomfortable. However, these top performers and the people who are constantly doing well have this innate ability to just sit and be uncomfortable for extended periods of time until things start clicking in their head. And just like Seneca said, they start treating their time and attention like it's some kind of currency. Because if you were going to the movies or whatever and you spent money on going there and money to drive there, money to buy snacks, you probably wouldn't be on your phone the whole time at the movie. However, if you're doing the same thing, you're studying, you're spending your precious hours of your day going into a library or going into your desk and sitting down and working on something, you're perfectly fine pulling out your phone, listening to a TV show and distracting you from that precious time you have working on that. And it really hampers that ability to move yourself forward in your life and feel like you're achieving something and something that you're proud of. Now, everything that I've said so far is dancing around this idea of deep work, something that Cal Newport named in his book, Deep Work. And what this really is just a distraction free ability or the zone that you enter where you're just intensely focused on whatever the task is at hand. And it's something that requires all your cognitive ability, all 100% of it, whatever you're working on. If that's studying, training, building, creating, whatever it may be for you, that's this idea of deep work. It's just fully devoting yourself to the problem at hand. Now, the converse of this is shallow work. And what I described earlier and what was happening to me was that I was filling my day with shallow work and pretending like it should have the same effect as working on something 100%. Because yes, I might have been working on something that I thought was meaningful and important for me, but in doing so, I also had my emails tab open. I had a show playing in the background, and it really wasn't me putting my 100% into something that deserves my 100% in order to get out a product that I view as something that I'm proud of. So deep work is just another term for this ability to sit there and focus and be uncomfortable and be bored in order to achieve something that you know is going to be meaningful for you and move that needle forward, move yourself forward in your life to become that best version of yourself that you know you can be. This is made even more clear when I look back at history, at the people that I admire most or who I believe have had great success and done great things in their life and really reached their full potential. And the through line in looking at what their stories are and how they did what they did is that they were able to sit in this uncomfortable boredom and just focus for long periods of time until whatever they were trying to do got done. So people like Newton, Einstein, Darwin, Orwell, Steve Jobs, and yes, some of these people were legitimate geniuses, but there were plenty of geniuses throughout history. They weren't one of ones as much as people would like you to believe. Their one of one capability came from pairing this smart intellect and IQ with this ability to just sit there and just work at something until it moved when no one else thought it could. Because these people oftentimes were thought of as crazy because they were working on things no one thought was possible. However, without their contributions to humanity, we would not be sitting here doing what you're doing, watching what you're watching. It just wouldn't have been possible. And because of that, it kind of gets rid of at least the feeling for me that this idea of deep work or focused work is some modern construct from the productivity gurus who are trying to sell you courses, and that this has been a fundamental truth in humanity and human history as a whole that has really brought people to be able to achieve their best versions of themselves in whatever facet of life or whatever thing that might be for someone. Some of you might be looking at that and think, well, I'm glad they did those things for me, but that does sound like a miserable life, and I don't know if I want to live that. And that's totally fair, and I understand that point. However, this ability to focus deeply for an extended period of time on something that you care about is going to also unlock more time in your life personally, because you won't have to spend 10 hours in your day working on something that you could have done in 3 if you just sat there and focused. And this will actually unlock more of your life for you, and you'll be able to do the things that you cared about. Go hang out with friends, get some new hobbies, whatever that might be. And you'll feel like you have that control of your life because you know when you sit down to work, you're going to get done what you need to get done and not feel tired and burnt out from having this constant mound of work piling on top of you. And what this looks like in practice, at least for me, after years of struggling with this, is that number one, and I think the most important thing, is that just removing your phone from anywhere where you're trying to pay attention and focus really deeply. And I know this is cliche and you probably heard this a million times, but the fact of the matter is that when you remove your phone, you're actually removing one of the biggest cognitive disruptors that you possibly could have. And there's been studies on this called attention residue, which is where you're on a group chat or you're watching reels or whatever it may be, you put your phone down on your desk, it's still in sight, your brain's actually spending 20% of its capacity on that, whatever you were just on, group chat or reels or whatever, and you're not able to devote 100% to what you're working on. So just try to remove your phone at least out of sight and out of mind as much as you can while you're working. Number 2 is to work on something and only that thing. So a single channel of work, one tab open, your desk is clean, you're not thinking of 10 other things or emails you're responding to or multitasking between 2 tasks. Just devote an hour or 90 minutes or whatever it may be to one specific task and just sit in that uncomfortableness and in that boredom and try to figure it out and solve it and do whatever you need to do with that task to move it forward. And number 3, in order to do this, I think it's important to train boredom like you're training a muscle. And I guess it's not really training boredom, it's training your attention. but I like to call it that because it's the act of forcing yourself to be bored sometimes. So if that's waking up, not immediately grabbing your phone, or same thing goes with going to bed, just putting your phone on your desk with your alarm and then going to bed like normal and just sitting there with your thoughts and in your boredom. And same thing is like standing in lines, taking a walk, whatever it may be for you, just sit and enjoy the silence and listen to what your brain has to say. Because in this world where we're constantly being bombarded with different distractions, your brain doesn't have a chance to just sit there and think and truly create or do what it's meant to do and achieve what it's meant to achieve, because you're constantly filling it with more and more input, and not letting it breathe and give you the output that you desire. And number 4 is more just like words of encouragement, but you have to expect resistance. It's not going to be something that like clicks immediately for anyone unless you already have a very good attention span. You're going to have to sit and be uncomfortable, and these feelings of I need to grab my phone or I need to distract myself because I just can't deal with this are obviously going to arise. And it's just important that you power through it, because greatness and being the best person you can possibly be in whatever facet you want that to be in is probably on the other side of this. And this last bonus tip is, I think, very important as well. And that's stopping when you actually plan to stop. Because if you treat this block of time like it's that time and no more, no less, then your brain afterward is going to be able to switch off, and you're not going to feel constantly stressed out by thinking about what you need to be doing all the time. Because once you're done working, you're done working, and you can go off and do other things at 100% capacity instead of feeling this feeling of just like nervousness, anxiousness that you get from having incomplete work that you know you should be working on, but you wasted your time working on it earlier, so you need to figure out a time to work on it later. None of that. Just give your brain a delineation of when to stop and when you can start having fun, so that your body and your mind are more likely and more happy to go into those deep work focused states. So I challenge you to focus on something you care about this week in your life. And I do have to say that if you look back and look at history and look at what you want to do in your life in the future, why would you not chase greatness? Or why would you not chase being the best version of yourself and truly doing something you're proud of in your life and feeling like you own it? Thank you for watching.